Japan is the largest market for the Toyota Hiace anywhere in the world. But did you know that the Philippines is actually the second biggest market for this model? So when they launched the all-new Hiace earlier this year, many were wondering, hey, where's the Super Grandia? Where is the big model that we all want to own, especially for the gated communities? Well, now we have it. This is the Toyota Hiace Super Grandia Elite in two-tone, the absolute top-of-the-line model of the Super Grandia range. So now let's take it for a drive and see how this model has improved from the previous generation and see whether it fits your lifestyle or, well, fits in your garage. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com. The Hiace Super Grandia has always been the most coveted model in the Hiace range. And that's because Filipinos, we like to, well, have comfortable vehicles, and then we get our family drivers to do the duties for us, like I am now. But if your family driver is going to be the one doing the driving for this model, well, he's really going to have a good time because it's a lot better than what it was before. For example, the engine is now forward, like when we did the GL Grandia Tourer. So that means it's not underneath the driver. It frees up more space here, but also it locates the the hot engine far forward, the hot and noisy engine forward. So that means they can do a lot more with the comfort of the vehicle. As you can see, there's no noise, there's not much in the way of vibrations, because putting the engine there allows Toyota to do a bit more magic with the sound deadening and the NVH of the vehicle. The Hiace Super Grandia may be the top-of-the-line model in the Hiace range, but it's not the biggest. That distinction goes to the GL Grandia Tourer. But that's okay, because in this size, you can actually still fit it in a lot of mall parking lots. Of course, you do have to pay attention to the ground or the roof clearance of most parking lots, but you have to do that with any SUV or big van. But even though it's not the biggest model, it still can be a bit tricky to maneuver around town. For example, these side mirrors, they're not as big as the one in the GL Grandia Tourer, which can prove to be tricky already to maneuver around, like traffic or tight urban streets. What I would have wanted Toyota to do is fitted it with, let's say, blind spot monitors, something to alert you that there's a vehicle in your blind spot, because those side mirrors are pretty narrow. They don't cover as much, width of the road, unlike your normal automobile, sedan side mirrors. Maybe a side view camera or, again, blind spot monitors would be nice. There are many out there that argue that the Super Grandia Elite, particularly this version, will be an Alphard killer. It'll cannibalize the sales from the Alphard. That may be true to an extent, but in terms of overall refinement and feel, it's not quite at Alphard levels yet. Of course, when you look around the cabin, it looks like it could really rival or cannibalize, take away sales from the Alphard. But once you actually drive it and get a feel for it in the city or out of town, that's not really the case. For example, the sound from the tires, you can hear a bit more of that coming into the cabin, especially if you're on concrete roads. The noise insulation from the windows, these aren't as thick as something like you would find in the Alphard or even other models. So, you're not gonna get that same level of luxury, even though the appointments here are very, very similar to something like the Alphard. Now, in the last couple of weeks, I've been driving quite a bit of these cab-over van types, like the L300, the Grandia, the older Grandia, the Fuso, trucks, that kind of thing. So it's actually refreshing to get into something like the Hiace again, or the new generation Hiace, because the engine's in front, you're not sitting on top of it. So If anything, driving it around town, driving it around on mountain roads or wherever on the highway, it feels more like an SUV rather than a van. And that's the key thing with something like the Super Grandia Elite, because if you're the one driving, you're not really getting the most out of the experience. For that, well, you have to sit somewhere else. It's best to think of the Super Grandia Elite as a multi-class airplane. Right here in the very back, this is coach or economy or fiesta class. The seats are fairly basic, but they're nice and soft, so it's not gonna be too uncomfortable for a long drive. If you adjust the seats in a more equitable manner in terms of the legroom, you can have a decent bit of legroom here. But again, there's nothing much to write about here other than the fact that you have access to USB ports for charging, and you do have sunshades on either side. There is, however, a problem. Some of the clips have actually fallen out and we don't know where they are. They were gone by the time we got the vehicle. So I think Toyota may need to improve on the quality of those clips back here. But other than that, it's not a bad place to be. But as you will see as we progress, there's going to be a big upgrade as we move forward in this vehicle. If you've been inside an older Super Grandia, then these seats will look familiar. These are dual armrest captain seats for comfort. That's what you've always come to expect from the Super Grandia line. This level of comfort, plushness, and you've got your own seat belt right there. You can adjust the legroom of the seat in front so you have a little bit more on this row. But this still isn't the best seat in the house. We are still in premium economy. Let's go take a look at how the other side lives over in business class. But without a shadow of a doubt, these two seats up here on the second row are what it's all about. These are power reclining seats with a power ottoman right below. So you can really relax, much like if you were flying in business class. You've got your own AC controls, AC vents, your own sunshade, and even your own light. Oh, and it has this folding table as well as these cup holders. If you've been inside an Alphard, they will look very familiar because they're practically the same seats, just in a different color. So now, back to the driving. Well, this one comes with a 2.8-liter turbo diesel engine, the 1GD FTV. Yeah, it's the same engine as the one in your Toyota Fortuner. In this version, it makes 176 horsepower metric and 450 Newton meters of torque. It's got a 6-speed automatic driving the rear wheels. If you put your foot down, it does have torque. It's not gonna shoot ahead in any way, shape, or form, because it's still got quite a bit of weight to deal with being a van. But overall, actually, acceleration is not bad. And fuel economy is going to be the big difference here compared to something like the Alphard, because the Alphard, as you know, it has a 3.5-liter V6 gasoline engine. So in terms of city fuel economy, you're probably gonna get somewhere around 4 to around 5 kilometers per liter in something like the Alphard. In the Hiace Super Grandia, you're gonna get something around 8 to 9, even if you're being very economical about it. But of course, if you're a fully loaded cabin, you can expect around 7.5, which is what I was getting over the weekend with a full cabin. Steering manners, it's all right. Again, feels more like an SUV rather than a van, which is a good thing. For safety, you get anti-lock brakes, you get electronic brake force distribution, brake assist, you get multiple airbags, you get stability control, traction control. It's a fairly long list of safety features, and it's part of Akio Toyota's drive to make their vehicles, well, safe. What the Super Grandia Elite has over a lot of other Hiace models is something called Safety Sense. Of course, that means it comes with these next generation or these more advanced safety features that you normally would expect from more expensive vehicles. So for example, it has the lane keep assist system. So if you're driving on the highway and you're kind of veering or being inattentive, it will warn you, like now, see? There. That's the LCAS system at work. It's telling me that, okay, you may have fallen asleep or something, so to get you back on track. The other system is called the Adaptive Cruise Control System. We'd like to demonstrate it with you now, but it's a bit tricky in urban roads, or at least in provincial highways. But really, you can set a speed and then it will maintain the distance or the gap to the vehicle ahead. So it'll take a bit of that load off so you can have a more relaxed drive. The Toyota Hiace Super Grandia Elite is really a big improvement over the previous generation. It's getting close to Alphard levels of luxury and comfort already. It still needs to work on a few things like refinement and a little bit on the ride, but those are really minor things already. Overall, in terms of drive, looks, comfort, luxury, everything about this Super Grandia is a big improvement over the last one. Now, there's also a big increase in price for this variant particularly because this one costs 2.89 million. That's significantly more than the previous generation and more than its closest competitors. But it's still not, in terms of pricing compared to the Alphard, it's still significantly less. Now, overall, we like what we've seen with this vehicle overall. There's only so much we can say in a few minutes of video. If you want an even more in-depth review, you can check out our review on AutoIndustriya.com. You can also watch some of our other videos on our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, and on Twitter. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com. Thank you for watching.